Yep.
So what is this counter? That's the counter of when we started live?
No, it's already started, 7 o'clock.
Oh.
That's just keeping us
Hi everybody,
in
what's
track.
up? Yo, good thing I didn't say anything bad.
I know, right?
I didn't say nothing bad about Nike, Adidas, nothing.
Not yet. Not yet.
Exactly, not yet.
Give it a minute.
We're here. It's Monday, Veterans Day,
Yes, sir.
No.
Salute to the veterans.
for sure.
Are we live right now?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
live.
Oh, wow.
That's what we just said. We're live. We're live for 2 minutes. Yo, Dion Sneaky, he did the same thing to me in Toronto,
Yeah,
right?
see?
2
Just
minutes
like,
in.
boom.
That's how you get some behind the scenes.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
First off, thank you guys for making it happen. I know it's a holiday. Everyone's busy. Trent and his team flew in from Toronto.
Yeah.
And Montreal, I should say. I know you guys have the holiday in the U.S., so time is important to everybody. So thank you first and foremost for that.
Thanks for us being here, man.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, I kind of have the privilege of knowing all three of you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We're bringing all of you guys together because you're all kind of my favorite people in the game that I've met over a long time and a short time.
Thank
So I
you.
just want to have a conversation about, you know, where the sneaker game in retail is going.
Yeah.
But before we do that, introduce yourself because I know everybody here. But start
I
here.
am Sean Williams, co-founder of Obsessive Sneaker Disorder, Social Studies Sneaker Industry Education Program, and he is.
What up? It's Trent Out Loud. I am the founder and CEO of Exclucity, which is a sneaker boutique. Started originally in Montreal and gone over to Toronto, and recently going worldwide online. Well, not recently, but we'll get into that later on. Yeah, so I got plans. You know, it's a new decade. I got shit to do.
Yeah, big
you know?
things, big things. D. Wells, co-founder of OSD, Obsessive Sneaker Disorder, obsessed storyteller, and we got a lot of stories to tell. So this is going to be interesting. So thank you first and foremost for making this all happen.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Yellowbrick as well,
Yes,
because
sir.
I know that you know, nothing happens by accident. Everything
Facts.
happens, you know,
Absolutely.
right on
sure.
time. So here we are on 11/11, 2019.
Yep.
So I think for me, like, we always talk about it from an educational perspective, right? Just because, like, we are technically a school online.
Yep.
And the way I always structure things when we're talking to students is like past, present, future. Let's have the conversation that way. If we had to bring back something from the past when it comes to retail, let's talk about it like that. If we had to bring back something that from the past when it comes to retail, what would that look like?
Oh, for me, it would be no release dates.
Wow.
Absolutely none.
That's big.
Why though?
And you're just going back to when we were kids, me in particular, growing up in New York City as a child of hip hop. And we would go to our main strip to shop. We just walked into the store, whatever was there, and it was dope. We bought it. And without any influence, I mean, the only influencer was your parents and their pockets.
Gotcha.
Until you were able to, you know, get that little job and afford shoes for yourself. And even then, you know, on the low, even though you tried to front like, yo, I get whatever I want, I'm working now, you still cared about your pockets.
Gotcha.
But it still was all based on whatever you saw that was right in front of you. There was no, oh, well, I heard that these come out on the 15th. Let me go see if they got them early. Or, oh, they got them. Let me go tweet and IG this and let everybody know that this store got them. There was none of that. There was no intel, no advance notice. You had to actually work on your craft of being fresh. Simple as that.
I mean, I find that interesting. And I'm interested to hear what Trent has to say.
Yeah.
Because looking at it from like an actual someone who's in the retail space, like you probably have a different impact versus it being a thing that, you know, oh, I wish I didn't have that because I'm a collector.
Yeah.
From a retail side and someone fan of the game, interested to hear what you thoughts are.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we're here on the panel, right? Like, I disagree with
Right,
Sam, but this is
right.
what we're trying to do. And I respect it. I understand where you're coming from. But like how movies have a release date, even cars have a release date, everything. And I think they have implemented release days just to kind of create more anticipation. And as a guy, like, you know me pretty well, as a guy who I'm always like, yo, what's going on here? Like having an anniversary party or whatever. So I like something to look forward to and I like it. But I understand what you're saying, that it's gone too much where they only care. Like a shoe that doesn't have a release date is not important, but it could be your favorite shoe of the year.
Exactly.
So
Right.
I think that we are like, we're a product of our own environment. We're causing our own detriment. So there's other industries that have release dates, but you know, they may have a release date on X car, the Audi, R8, but it's not like, yeah, man, I can't mess with the A4, son. Because, I didn't see that, right? Like, that's our culture having that problem. So I think it's something even, like, more internal.
Yeah.
You're talking about hip hop, the same thing with hip hop. Like in rock and roll, they honor and love their legends, and then with their modern day hip hop, they're like, oh, we can't blah blah. Like, anyways, I'm going too far, but it's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
do you understand?
Yeah,
so it's a cultural thing. So, but what I would like to bring back is kind of the same thing, where it's like to bring back energy into inline products. I don't know exactly how we do that, but I love that, and that is not even too far off. I remember when Roshi's hit. Roshi had a release date. I mean, there's a couple little quick tricks here and there, but Roshi's didn't have a release date.
Right.
Hirachi's hit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Sock Darts. Like, inline just died. Like, I would say like the birth of these apps, right? Like Fight Club. Stadium Goods. That really didn't hurt, but I think it's the apps, and now it's been like so obtainable. Anything you could get. Why would you buy anything inline? You know what I'm saying? Because you could get a quick strike on the low. So, but I would bring back the heat to inline.
Yep.
Wow.
That's long-winded. It's gonna be a long conversation.
No, but that's you know what really made me
It's
think
a good
about
balanced
it.
approach, right?
Exactly.
It's like, I'm interested to hear what you're gonna say.
I mean, because when I think about the stuff in the past, I used to love, and again, not growing up in the continental United States, I loved going into the stores in the Virgin Islands, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. John.
Yeah.
So I had to go into a store called Cosmopolitan, and I had to check to see what was there.
Nice.
And then I got information from cousins and so on and so forth, living stateside. But for me, the past thing used to be the network of the employees in the store. That was how I got my intel, my 411. Like
plug.
Yeah.
they were the plug. They were. They were the plug.
And the kind of unofficial release date.
And they had that book in the back that they would never let you see until you became really good friends with them. They'd be like, okay.
We used to have that in the store back in the day.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, this is coming out sometime in November. And you'd be like, ooh, okay, I gotta have those.
Let me make sure I save my bread.
Exactly. Make sure you save your bread. So that past piece, that was really key. And then like for me, literally was seeing sneakers on athletes' feet and cutting them out of magazines and mailing the picture with a money order to like cousins stateside or aunts and uncles and be like, yo, can you get me these when they come out? Just hold this money, be it $100, whatever, and get those for me. Like,
that's crazy.
That's how it had to be. This is before PayPal and Venmo and all.
Yeah, you had to have a real network of people.
Exactly.
And rely on the U.S. Postal
So think
Service.
about it. I did that also for music. So I used to want to get the hip hop early. So I'd send them money and they'd get cassette tapes.
That's crazy.
And then mail me cassettes. And then what would I do? I'd go get 45s or the 12 inches coming out of the Caribbean and mail it to them. Right. So
that's a cool perspective, man.
We were changing it. We were bartering. Exchange, right?
Yeah.
What I find interesting, like for me being in Canada, I used to buy East Bay magazine.
Oh,
yeah.
Right? But the difference
sneaker
is
Bible.
I used to buy, the Bible over here, but I used to be just looking for the rare colorway. Because on the U.S. side, they used to complement all the high school teams with different colors. So we could never get a colorway.
Exactly.
Never?
No,
so if you get like an...
Canada wasn't aligned with how the U.S. is now.
so like a forest green Hirachi,
Yeah.
that would never make it to
make it.
Canada, ever. And that shit would be like $49.
Exactly, right.
So you guys
Hey,
had
you
your
swore
own
first, huh? I just want to let you know. Let's say you swore first. Yes. Good. That was one in the bag, yo.
So I think that's interesting because
So if you wanted that, would you have to like reach out to someone here and be
so
like,
what I
yo?
would do, I could tell you, you probably have the same experience. I would, at the end of summer, I'd order all my stuff and come here for Labor Day and pick it up and then go back home. Then I'd be good from September to December. Then I'll do it again Christmas.
Similar story for me would be either coming stateside in the summer months or we go to Puerto Rico for the day. Used to be $100 round trip from St. Thomas.
And they would have stores
and
that
they would have
stuff.
stores that we didn't have in the VI. And we'd be like, yo.
See, I didn't think about ordering, but we would come down and my aunt would stay at, was on Schenectady and 42nd near Flatbush. And we'd come down, right? Exactly. We'd come down every summer.
Church
Ave.
Church. Flatbush Ave.
Exactly.
Oh,
I'd come down and do Fulton, Flatbush, Olivet, the malls with the dollar
So you're
cap.
actually, what you're mentioning, right? So you're actually mentioning is why I don't want release dates.
Yeah.
Because for me, those were the places we had to go. Number one, we were supporting local businesses.
For sure.
And number two, again, it reinforced us looking forward to taking that trip out to our main strip.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Where now the release date thing is so corporate, it feels like a corporate mandate on the retailer himself or herself
Yeah.
That shoe gotta be on the shelf on that date.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether the consumer's ready
It
or
was the
not.
hunt. It was a discovery too.
And because there was no release date for us back then, we just had to go and discover everything.
Yeah. And what was there was there.
What was there, and we knew that we were supporting local business.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, it was mandatory because that was your strip.
Yeah.
That was where you were
At the time, I didn't understand what I was doing, but now
Right.
I'm happy I spent my money there.
Yeah, you know,
I feel
as opposed to being forced to go to the big box who got the big corporate account with
Yeah.
10 million pairs and they got to make their number and they're going to force you to buy it so they can make their numbers. And,
Yeah.
you know, all the community is gone. And like Dee was saying, the network with that employee. Hey, man, what's coming out next week?
Yeah.
You know?
And they knew
Hey.
what you like too.
Yeah, of
What
course.
colors? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I know you like orange or you like hunter green because
Yeah.
my school colors. Like,
Yeah.
yo.
And
we
you
try
know-
to do that now with our staff. Like I got that from the Starbucks approach. Like Starbucks is one of my favorite companies in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, and they want their staff to work in the area where the store is at, so that you coming in like Trent. Okay, I know you're from Montreal, and you like your stuff. So I agree with you. That's missing out, and I try to have our staff. It's
That's smart.
Yeah, it's
That's
tough.
so smart.
It's tough, but you gotta I hate to not I don't want to seem like one of those guys who oh, everything is hard. Right? I just find we need to find a middle ground. You know,
Yeah.
you mix a
Yeah.
little bit of the old school.
Yeah.
Because
No, it should definitely be that
Yeah.
mix of
sure.
here comes the big one.
Yeah.
Get ready. You know, like you said
Yeah.
with the movie premiere.
Exactly.
Sort of reminded me of back in the days when E.T. came out. Like, there was so much
Right?
hype behind
Yeah.
E.T.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
over all movies that were just sitting there. And there were
Yeah.
other movies so much better.
Yeah.
But there was that one that created the energy for the
vibe.
entire atmosphere for what you're going to consume, be it shoes, cars,
Yeah.
whatever.
Whatever.
There's that one that got you in the mood for that entire industry. That balance should be there.
Exactly.
You're right.
I'll tell you something that Nicole, who's our brand manager, shout out to Nicole, what's up?
What up, Nicole?
So for the Obsidian ones, okay, coming out, it was a Saturday release. Yeah, so you watch this guy's okay. So I was just like, what can we do? What can we do at the moment instead of just releasing shoes like you're saying, selling or whatever? And she's like, how about we have blue Kool-Aid to match with the shoes? It costs $20, and we put up posts house party, pouring the sugar,
Yeah.
doing the thing or whatever, and everybody loved it. Everybody came up, got a shoe, and got blue Kool-Aid. It was Instagrammable, wasn't, but we kind of brought the community together, and it felt
smart.
different than going to the big box store, where I'm not going to give them any shine right now.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Right,
But I just think when you infuse little things like that,
That made a moment though.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you had an
Yeah.
experience where they say,
Yeah.
"Yo, I bought that sneaker, but let me tell you what they did to
exactly
make it even better."
Yeah. And I always try to challenge my team to. It's not always about money because those big box stores they'll always be able to outspend you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, but they're not going to think to do blue Kool-Aid.
I'll hustle you.
Kool-Aid is
Yeah,
the hood. It's
smart
back
you.
in the day. It's
Yeah.
85.
They're too big to think about
Of course.
personal
Or
memories.
they're afraid to do that too.
That's
right?
true.
I mean, sometimes these
Yeah.
companies are afraid to
100%.
go there because they're like, "Oh, are we gonna get backlash because
Are we
we're playing
offending
to black and
someone?
brown
Yeah,
people? Are we
exactly.
offending someone?"
Exactly.
You know. So
Well,
yeah.
Chen, you just said something about bringing the community together.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I grew up in a time where the sneaker store, the boutique sneaker store, that was what that was.
Yeah.
It brought the community together. All these young people, they're excited to get into retail. I want to do this. How important is it? I'm speaking to you personally, just because you're actually in the space,
Doing it,
right?
yeah.
How important is it to have that sneaker store be a staple and a community gathering spot? Because I feel like we've lost that.
Yeah.
I can text you, yo, what up, cool, but
Yeah.
I'm never gonna actually see you.
Yeah.
So maybe speak to that, because a lot of people who are trying to get in the game start from I just want to know people online and
Yeah.
how important it is to do this.
Yeah. It's vitally important for me, and I'm not going to sit down here and say that I don't make mistakes and sometimes forget about it.
Absolutely.
Because I have rents to pay. I have over 100 people that I got to make sure get a paycheck every Thursday. So unfortunately, sometimes you kind of lose your way a little.
Right.
And I think it was again for the Obsidian ones, and we had an event. Kadri was at the store. Kadri's a Maple Leafs player, and we had Nikki Diamonds from Diamond Supply, and we were talking, and I gifted them all a pair, and there was a line of 40, 50 people outside, and one of the guys came in and he was talking. He's like, "Yo, Trent, just want to say what's up. Nice to meet you. Thank you for doing First Come First Serve. I want to let you know I'm one of your biggest supporters and your biggest fans." And I'm like, "All right, thanks a lot, man." He's like, "Yo, I bought 700 pairs of shoes here," and I was like, what? I'm like, hold on, you have 700 pairs? He's like, no, I have 1,000, but around 700 pairs came from your store
spot.
right here. Because
Wow,
I
that's
like to
crazy.
support black business. I like to support community, and I always see that you're doing something different. And I'm like, yo, I didn't even realize
that you're building a community.
And I didn't even realize I'm sitting down here and I'm giving Nikki Diamonds, who, shout out to Nikki, super,
Right.
He didn't spend all that money in my store. He didn't buy $700. I'm giving him a free pair of shoes, and these guys are outside. So I brought him inside. I brought him to the basement, and I made him pick a pair of shoes, and I gave it to him for free, and I let him go home a day early.
Well, that's
and I was just like, so shout out to Inca Money, and I was like, yo, you reminded me what I do this for, and I admitted to it. Yeah, and I was legit like raw on camera to be like, sometimes I forget, and I let the corporate side of me, the business side of me. So it's super important to me, and there's other people out there, I'm sure, who might not admit that they kind of lose it sometimes. You know?
It's natural. It's a natural thing.
It's a natural thing. Dude. You have rents and all that stuff. It's hard. You get caught up. So it's super important to me. And 2020. I am going back to my oranges and going back to my roots, and I am literally like, our first and foremost mandate is about the community and about serving the original customers.
Well, see, that's what makes you different, because you've allowed yourself to not be in a position where you're forced to just be corporate.
Yeah.
You're a smart enough businessman, and through the years, you've been in tune with who your consumer is.
Yeah.
That's allowed you to say, all right, game reset.
Yeah, exactly.
Where there's so many people in retail now, even particularly, in New York City. I've had a couple of shops who, I've done consulting and stuff for, go straight out of business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just being, in the red behind just 2 sneaker brands.
Jeez.
Just 2.
Yeah.
They may sell 10, but they're in the red behind just 2.
Yeah.
And done.
Yeah.
Doors closed.
They're too far.
No opportunity for the reset.
Yeah.
They had to, for the last year and a half,
But
be
a lot of
straight
it is
corporate.
ego.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, yes. Talk about that,
So-
that ego for these
Because
owners.
you had that moment, you were able to talk about it, be honest,
Yeah.
and guess what? You saw yourself in him, and he
100%.
connected with you, and you were like, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of owners, business people, they forget, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, we forget about those things.
100%.
And then you say, well, I got to make sure I pay these employees every week. I got to keep the lights on, so to speak, feed the baby.
Pay
blah,
the
blah, blah.
two brands.
Right, exactly.
I know
right?
which two you're talking
and
about.
then you're like, well, okay, how are we going to make this all work?
Yeah.
Let's figure it out. But luckily, I think what the key is here is you're smart enough, but you're also nimble enough to make that and hit that reset button.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people haven't, because they got so far down the road.
Yeah.
And so much in trouble
Yeah, exactly.
that it's a wrap now.
That's why
It's
everything
over.
happens for a reason,
Or the people who try to kind of right the ship by going online when it's too late, because they've already missed the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
100%.
Yeah. But the other thing that I love is, just with you as an example, black business. How many people have you employed over the years since you've been in business?
We actually did that research doing
you
my
did?
deck. Yeah, 750 something
That's
in
a
the
lot.
700s.
Call it 1,000.
So
Yeah, let's chalk it up to cheap.
Round up.
Yeah.
so on top of being in tune with the things that you're in tune with
Yeah.
as a businessman,
Yeah.
there's those people, 700 plus,
impacted their
that
life.
you've impacted their life by putting them intimately in this space
Yeah.
with shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Employed them, helped them feed themselves, pay bills, feed families, whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, it contributes to people still sustaining that genuine love. And they have an opportunity.
I call it working
Yeah.
in the shadows. Like, that's the work in the shadows
Yeah.
no one sees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They see Trent, he's on camera, he owns a store, but like, that's the real work that people
Right.
should celebrate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I forget that too sometimes.
I mean, we all do because you're trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I notice it after when people come after, like, yo, I remember when you used to come down and I was just a stock boy and you asked me what I thought about this and asked me what I thought about that.
And I don't see you.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like,
It's a balancing act.
yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
So D, I know I always love hearing D's perspective because he's the craziest, great storyteller. Before we transition to what it is now, if you had to share a story about you or somebody else when it came to sneaker retail back in the day, what's the craziest thing you've seen?
Craziest thing that I've seen, boy.
You gave him a harder question.
I'm telling you.
Or one of doesn't have
Craziest retail
to be, like
experience.
story.
Story.
Yeah, because like we all have-
Directly from
from
me?
you or from somebody else, like someone did this to get a pair because they flew to China and came home in the same day. Crazy.
Oh, I've known people to do that. I've known people to literally get on a plane, especially like when Atmos Air Force Ones came out or the Linen Air Force Ones. I know people that got on planes and left the country, went to Asia to get them. Yeah. But the one that always gets me is actually one that was directly is. So I decided I wanted to get a part-time job at the Timberland store back in the day at Chestnut Hill Mall. and
In Mass.
in Massachusetts. And lo and behold, I'm working. I used to sell. I used to actually outsell the full-time employees because one, I knew the product better, I identified with it, blah blah blah. So one day, this guy comes in, not knowing who he was, and he's asking me about these shoes and these boots, and I'm giving him the style numbers and what the materials are and all this stuff. And he's like, "How do you know so much about these products?" I was like, "Well, I've always been into Timberlands." Come to find out, it was Jeffrey Schwartz, the son of the owner
Oh, wow.
of Timberland, and he's like, "Are you working here all the time?" I'm like, "No, I only work here basically part time." He's like, "But you like know the style numbers by head?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I've been buying in 2009 since 1986." He's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yep." But then fast forward, people in Boston, like I used to go to downtown Crossing, and this is when Filene's Basement and Macy's used to exist right across from each other, and they're famous because Filene's Basement used to have this annual dress sale, like wedding dress sale, and it caused
would go
mad
crazy.
chaos. People would lose their mind. Women would buck wild. But there was a sneaker store called Crystals, the store was owned by Kenny Crystal. Kenny Crystal, old school, like mom and pop, ran it really simple. This is no credit cards. It was straight cash, and you could negotiate with him. So if you walked in and you wanted to get an Adidas Top 10 and the price said, $69, you're like, "Kenny, yo, I only got $50. He's like, "Nah, come back and see me." And then he'd be like, you'd be walking out the door. He's like, "No, come on.
They always call you back. You always got to go for the door.
Guess what? That's
the
extra
extra
straight.
Yeah.
Right? It was extra straight. So
Of course.
he's like, that was his thing. And he was in business for like 30 plus years. And I still talk to Kenny to this day. And I'm like, "Yo, you know how many pairs of sneakers I bought? Or how many people I told them, like, when they were coming to Boston, like, go to downtown Crossing, go to Crystals. Like,
Wow.
support this local business because they had been around." I mean, eventually, his rents kept on going up and he had to scale back. He eventually actually sold to Todd Quarles, who owns Expression Stores, which has probably 40 plus stores
Heard
now,
about
all
Expressions.
throughout New England area, so Connecticut all the way up. But, I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's so many stores. I know people are doing some crazy stuff, like living out of their car to buy sneakers, not eating,
See, I don't get that.
ramen noodles, like,
But that's a moment in sneaker culture.
especially like from
that
like
doesn't happen
2000, like from 2000 on, like to me things got a little crazy. Like it got buck wild for a while, and I think again, almost taking a page what you said earlier is the reset button came about when the .com bubble burst. Because again, people were like using their homes as their piggy banks.
exactly.
Refi cash outs were crazy. That's why we had the recession we had in the continental United States. But
Yeah.
there's people that spend money on stupid, dumb shit. We know, especially sneakers, especially watches, and they don't even like them. That's the thing that happens to happen. Like they're buying stuff because they don't even like it. They're buying it why? For other people to please and to look.
For Instagram.
Yeah,
Well,
likes.
now, right?
The likes.
Or
Yeah.
like imagine people buying, like back in the day, my mom used to always tell me she would buy a dress and keep the tag on because they'd wear it and then they'll take it back. So that's what literally people are doing
Yeah,
now.
for sure.
But now we have the flip game, right? You have stores like consignment stores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No,
But,
for sure.
yeah.
Trent, another question for you. I
What
mean,
up, what
I
up?
kind of know the background of like how you got to open a sneaker store.
Yeah.
I would say first share a little bit of that.
See, he said little because he knows it'll be a
Because
20-minute story.
Because I know, like, it's a long story. It's a very good one. But the reason why I want him to share it, because, like, it just didn't appear.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to see it. Oh, my God, I never knew about this store. But, like,
Yeah.
he's grinded his way to get here.
Yeah.
So
started.
that part of it.
Yeah.
Then the second part of it is, like, I would love to understand what you're thinking the sneaker retail business looks like right now.
Yeah.
And, like, how has, like, the resale and all that
Great
shit
question.
changed the game. a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Okay, so in short, I was coaching basketball at the YMCA.
He's gonna have to have a separate conversation.
Yeah, it's a whole
Just
separate
this only.
segment.
The movie.
Yeah.
Trent out loud.
Trent out loud,
The
right?
movie.
Boom, baby.
Behind.
I'm actually doing a behind the scenes doc for the 13th year anniversary, so
There
it'll
you
actually
go.
be there officially, like on
Nice.
YouTube.
Nice.
Anyways, like super quick. So a kid came up and he's like, "Yo, I'm buying long tees and do rags in Buffalo." which is like an hour drive from, in Plattsburgh, and which is like in Toronto, because I'm used to telling this story in Toronto to be like, hey, all right, so hold on, I'm in New York now. They don't even know about Buffalo and Toronto. Anyway, so it goes down to Plattsburgh, which is a half an hour away from Montreal, 45 minutes. Like, I'm going down there and buying long tees and do-rags and selling it to my kids at the school. And I'm like, man, go on a quick, so just lend me $2,000. I promise I'll give you back your money. Kept on bugging me. I lent him 2 G's and I'm like, yo, bring me back my money at the end of the month. He came back like 2 or 3 days later with $3,000. He's like, here. And I was like, huh? What the hell is going on? It's like, I'm telling you, because back in those days, like, Foot Locker, none of the stores, geez, that's 16 years ago. Wow. Yeah, the store's 13, I was doing it before 13. So anyway, so I'm like, why are you going to Plattsburgh? Let's hop in my car, let's drive down to New York. Let's go down to Canal Street, 20th and Broadway, like, what's up? So I came down here, I started buying long tees, $2.50, do-rags for 30 cents, and we're selling them for 20 bucks out the trunk of my car. Driving around, I had a sales rep in every high school. I give them free tees and free do-rags, and I had them bring out the kids. And principals started calling the cops on me. I had to meet them like outside of the school areas because they thought I was selling drugs to this kid. I'm driving up on my Honda Accord.
Pop in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly. This black guy coming out. They're like, oh hell no.
Wait, he was talking about white. He was talking about t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So anyways, then I started meeting them at like the subway stations, and I was driving around 7 days a week from like 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. I was so much gas money, hustling. So it was like, I don't know, close to like a year. And then I knew a guy that had a basement of a tattoo parlor, and he was not doing anything with it. I'm like, dude, let me just rent out your basement. He's like, it floods. It's a basement. Like, I'm 6'2". It was like 7 feet tall. And he is like, I'm like, how much? He's like, dude, I can't rent it to you. It's impossible. I'm like, dude, I'll give you $300. He's like, you're crazy, but give it to me. Wow. Yeah, the first day I opened, we had like 100 people coming into the store because very long, very short, and like this was before social media, but I was attuned enough to know what was coming on. So you guys remember MSN Messenger? So I took all the kids' emails and I'm like, I'm gonna hit you up on MSN Messenger. I had no storefront, no nothing, and I'm like, here I am in the basement of that tattoo parlor. Yeah. So after like a month or 2 months, he's like, yo, you have too many kids walking through here, running through here, so he tried to raise the rent. I didn't have a lease, nothing. I didn't know what I was doing at that time. So they kept on trying to raise the rent, and every like couple of months he tried to raise the rent. I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm gonna get my own store. So that was the birth of me getting into retail, accepting like MasterCard, Visa, and all that stuff. Yeah. So then I had my first store. Dope. Yeah, and then Nike came around, and then at first for like 4 or 5 years, I was coming down to New York like every 2 or 3 weeks and just picking up stuff on Broadway, Canal, and 28th. And then we got into sneakers, and then that's the story. Wow. So yeah, man, like I was at like from the birth of it, like, you know, before it was like super crazy, especially in Canada, to like what I call now like the overly hype world. So I was blessed to like 11s used to sit on the shelf. You know what I'm saying? Like I had cool gray 11s that would just be chilling there, you know? Like our first shipment was for the love of the Game 7s. Yeah, it was crazy. So I think part 2 to your question, where is like, where do I see retail in the future and how much has hype affected that? Right. Hype has not just affected retail, it has killed retail. And that's why you have my man over here talking about killing release dates, because he's like, that's how you're going to kill the hype, right? And like I said, I don't know if that's the answer, but we have to find a way how to kill the hype. And hype has now just become overhype with these apps. So now it's like, what the 4s are coming out. How much is it going to be worth? How many Travis Scotts are coming out? So it's a whole like, and I don't like that there's a stock market made of sneakers, like something that I love. Now there's a stock market for sneakers. It's out of control. Yeah. So it has really, really hurt the retail business. And you were talking about some people that were in the red. So like I have also closed some stores. I went up to 10 stores, and now I brought it down to 3 stores. I have 2 in Montreal, 1 in Montreal, 2 in Toronto, and I'm focusing more online because retail has changed. I can't let you guys in completely to what I'm doing in the next decade, but that's why I brought Nicole onto my team. And instead of thinking of things through like a traditional retail landscape, we're going to actually try to use the stores as more as an experience-based platform, and drive energy and moments. Like I said, not every release will be Kool-Aid there, but we'll try to find out how to do fun, cool, interactive things, because we don't sell inline product. We don't have the Monday to Friday business. And we talked about that when you interviewed me. Like, you cannot scale hype. Right? Yeah. You can't scale hype because it's hype. Right. So if you put too much of it out, it's not going to work. So I think the good thing about it, I think that Nike and Adidas know what they've gotten themselves into.
Gotcha.
I blame Kanye West for all of this shit. When he left Nike, and Nike was like, okay, go, you're not going to do anything. And then he blew up Adidas and then Ultra Boost and NMDs. And I think like any market that has a bubble and explode, I think things are kind of like settling down. Nike has never been faced with an opponent like that to make them be like, huh? Ever. So, and I think it hurt. And I think the retailers that survive it and will understand it will definitely have, success in the long run. But it's a tough space right now. And without giving out too much, for 2020, Nike has said that they're actually going to be cutting down on all the quick strikes.
They said it. Yep, they said that, and they're gonna be cutting down on mid-level retailers too.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other ballgame. But it's like the quick strike. It's supposed to have energy around it.
Right.
You shouldn't have 20 quick strikes in a month, right? And there's things that like working with Travis Scott and Drake and all these things. Like that whole landscape is going to be changing. I'll let Nike let that out. So I am worried now. I'm a little less worried because I feel like the future is bright.
Gotcha.
And things will settle down and we'll have a successful decade ahead of us.
I mean, before you got here, we were talking about how impressive it was that you're ingrained in your brand. And all of us have done our own ventures, and Sean, I mean, we specifically talked about it.
Yeah.
How important is it to like focus on your brand when you guys want to get into not only the sneaker game but anything?
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that, like Dion said, we were talking about before you got here was.
You should have told me to come earlier. I want to be part of this conversation. Yo, Nicole, man, what's going on?
Talking about you.
You were enjoying my city, and I'm not mad at that.
Facts.
But I think what happens now, where a lot of mid-level retailers, smaller, stores and mom and pops, everybody get in trouble is they don't take the ownership that you've taken. You have to take ownership of the experience that you're offering to people when you're going to take their money, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, when another company is relying on you to be a distribution point for their product.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the fact that you, for example, when you go to your websites and when you look for Exclucity on social media and when you do all of those things that people do on social media to do their intel, you are in full ownership of your brand. You're out front and center.
Yeah.
You have a face tied to the brand, and you also have the passion to match what you're doing for a living.
Thank you.
And that is gone. And, not to spin our wheels on it, but it's because so many people have gotten in trouble by trying to be bigger than what they are and leads you down the road to think that every time you walk in the store, we're winning.
Yeah.
I've walked in stores that have only had $25 in sales, but on social media, you would think they sell $10,000 a day.
For sure.
The two just don't match, know?
Yeah.
And even for us with OSD, we've always made sure that we were a face behind everything we said, that we taught, and that we believe in.
Yeah.
And that's gone now, and we would like for people to really, if you're going to venture into anything, make sure that you're willing to take complete ownership of what you're offering to people, be it your time, your knowledge, whatever it is. You got to take full ownership. You can't hide behind a cape, a cloak, a social media handle, anything, and expect to get the same level of, embrace and authenticity brought back to you. You're going to end up in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening now, is a lot of people are ending up in trouble because they want to be that cool guy, like, the old school show Charlie's Angel. You never got to get to see Charlie.
Yeah.
The Angels is doing all the work.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a lot of owners in this space now, and you can't be that.
Yeah.
You can't be that cool anymore.
Yeah.
You got to come from the back office. You got to go out in the street. You got to do your own social media posts telling people what's going on in your establishment.
Yeah.
If you're going somewhere, you're teaching at a school, if you're doing a charity event, you got to own that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even from the OSD side, because, for me, I always credit you guys as like the first podcast before there was podcast.
Really?
That's technically us.
Seriously?
Yeah. That's us.
Yeah.
Respect, bro.
Thank you. That's us.
How long?
Started in 12 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and even just how that happened.
How many episodes a year?
We did 365 before we called it a hiatus, but we recently came back with 2 or 3 new ones.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say, like, one of the most, because you guys had some hitters on that show, too.
That's crazy.
Like, there was a time where I was, like, plugged in listening to the show.
Really?
Like, it was a religion.
We thank you for that.
I was around
that's how
a
we
long
connected,
time.
too. I think it was through the podcast.
We're probably going on a 10-year friendship at this point.
Absolutely.
It's probably been a
Easily.
decade. But like, talk about some of the crazy conversations you guys had, because like I feel like if we segmented and locked in those conversations, people don't even get to hear those.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
So, I mean, like, what was one of the crazier conversations where you felt like you learned something after you had it?
Just because I loved him and his music, and he's no longer with us in the physical, is the episode with Phife Dawg. And Sean asked him a question of like, so why did you always like make sports references? He's like, because I'm a sports like junkie and nut. And he would always he would reference Bo Jackson and football and baseball and he would.
And to top it off,
And
Starks got ejected.
Exactly right. Which is true. So like that episode was always one that's special and near and dear to my heart, because like that was like,
Yeah,
this
that
is
was a big
Phife
one.
Dawg. Like this is
That was a big one.
like
And
I'm a
it's
huge, everyone who like really knows me knows I'm a huge A Tribe Called Quest
big.
fan.
You're probably wearing the socks now, aren't you?
I
Are you serious? Wow. We guys know each other for 12 years. I shouldn't be surprised.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Keep that early. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
And
That was a great episode.
just to like be able to talk to him and really him break it down about references and then what he looks for in fashion. I mean, like, again, looking from a long distance for me, I looked at Yo MTV Raps and BET from the Caribbean as my introduction to a lot of fashion. So Starter, the game hats,
Pro player.
Starter
player.
was my favorite thing
Right,
ever,
right? Like,
dude.
oh, I couldn't wear anything from Starter because it's warm all year round in the
And the
Yeah,
French
yeah,
Caribbean,
yeah.
right?
We used to wear a hat or snapback.
exactly. Let me come stateside during the winter though. I need
Yeah.
to have that Starter. Mom was not have it because she's like, people getting jacked for this Starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, nah, it's gonna suck.
The segue to my favorite
Yeah.
episode.
Or your favorite episode was what?
Tinker Hatfield.
Oh, let's say
just
the
about
next
to
one.
ask that.
Yeah.
You guys had Tinker.
Yeah,
That's
they had
big.
Tinker
Yeah.
on there. And like, because you learn shit when you talk to Tinker. Of
course.
So like,
And he was only supposed to be with us for 45 minutes.
We had him for 2.5
And we had him for
hours.
2.5 hours
Yeah.
because, and we were texting him behind the scenes, like, do you have to go? He's like, no, I'm enjoying it.
He's like, this is amazing.
What year
I
was
was
this?
like,
Oh, man. I think that was Tinker was 2014.
Okay, so it's recent.
2013.
Okay, okay.
2013,
2013,
Yeah.
24. He was episode 200,
Wow.
which was crazy.
and Fife was episode 198.
Wow.
wow. So talk about Tinker. How was that conversation?
So my favorite shoe ever is the Air Max 1. Everybody knows that, no secret. And I always said that I was going to tell him my story about the level of racism I experienced at Paragon Sports in New York City.
Yes.
The level of racism I experienced, this was before it was coined the term retail racism, but the way they treated me when I got the shoe, and then the reaction that I got when I put the shoes on and came back to my neighborhood in East Flatbush. Almost 4,000 pairs of sneakers in this lifetime. I have never had the reaction ever again that I got to when I showed up with the white and red Air Max 1s, ever. So I always said when we got the show going, you know, we get Tinker, I'm telling him that story. And then the other thing I'm going to tell him or ask him, which, you know, people were like, yo, I don't think you should ask him that. That's going to be tough. Like, you might make him mad, whatever, was how he felt knowing that when that Sports Illustrated cover came out on May 14th, 1990, Your Sneakers Are Your Life, that's something he designed.
Yeah.
People are dying over. How do you feel?
Yeah.
That's a heavy question.
And he
Very
broke it
heavy.
down.
What was
though.
his answer?
And he broke it down.
And he broke it down. I mean, I'll send you the episode.
All right, I gotta like
Send you the
Google that
episode.
shit.
If whoever's watching now, you better
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
us up
yeah.
if you want to see that ever, listen to that episode. That's actually our most downloaded episode ever.
for
We
sure,
have
man.
Sure, Tinker.
we have what is it? The almost 900,000
It's
audio
crazy,
downloads of that
yeah, just
episode
that
by
episode
itself.
By itself. Yeah.
So I always wanted to tell him my story about my experience getting the Air Max 1. And I always wanted to ask that question because I felt like as someone representing the community the way we were and the responsibility that we knew we had with the show, if we don't ask that question,
Of course.
no one's going to ask him
great
that.
question.
Because they're going to ask him, oh, so Tinker, when you did the 3s and the 5s. And, you know, and it took me indeed 3.5 weeks just to find questions that no one ever asked him.
Right.
And that's how it ended up being 2.5 hours because we were finding out stuff like the Air Raid. He designed the Air Raid
But he
based
didn't
on
wanna
walking
call it.
around Brooklyn with Spike Lee.
With Spike Lee.
Oh, wow.
And the Air Raid wasn't even the real name for it.
Right.
Legal turned down the real name he was going to call it. So there was so many
Tell
things.
what the real
that-
name was
The
gonna
real
be.
name was going to be the Air Jack, as in
Really?
jack you for your sneakers.
Oh wow.
And Legal was like,
And Legal was like,
No, we're
Matumbo.
not doing that.
Oh,
come on.
they're like, nah.
Yeah. So you learn so much just
Yeah.
from us putting so much passion and
Yeah.
commitment into making sure we asked him things that, and you know, through these years of Soul Collector and all the other articles and things that Tinkerhead did, we had to do real homework to come up with so many questions that were never asked of him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
And
were
we
just
pulled it
afraid
off.
to, because they were dancing around.
Yeah.
You know? We just went
I
straight,
mean,
and he was
he was a
he
trooper.
was a trooper.
He was a trooper.
Really, he was answering them.
That's good.
I
I heard
just
he's a
to
good
hear him
dude.
talk. I mean,
Yeah.
And to be honest, you know, we brought him down a bit, but we warned him. We said,
Yeah.
this question
Yeah.
is going to take this nice kumbaya happy moment that the internet is
Change the
going
vibe.
crazy
Yeah.
over right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be brought down for a minute.
yeah.
But I promise you, we're going to bring it back.
Yeah.
And
Shout
we
out to
did.
Joel, because Joel.
Yeah, shout out to Joel Colley, man. Joel
Yeah.
PDX.
Yeah, Joel PDX hooked that
He
up.
hooked that whole thing up for
Yeah.
us. And Joel PDX, he's actually the guy who was on the team that designed the Coraline dunk
Yeah.
when he was working for Nike. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of help from people to
And people
do
just
a lot
were
of the
willing
things.
to.
And
That
they
was the
were
thing. I
willing.
Yeah.
think because we were our authentic self. People were just
Yeah.
willing to say, "Hey, I can get access to this person. Would you interview them?"
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be pretty hard to happen
So,
now. But you
yeah.
guys have the legacy behind it, right? And if it's tinkered, every should go.
Right.
We always were taken seriously because we were talking about endorsements. We were interviewing designers. We were, you know, lawsuits, tech, you know, all those things that made people grow up when
Yeah.
they listened to us
Yeah.
talk
just
about
learn
sneaker
something.
culture and
Just
just
learn
learn
something.
things. And then we found out, you know, people were telling us, yo, there's people sitting at the desk at Nike and Adidas and Under Armour and all these companies
listening to your show.
just to figure out how to do their jobs.
It's amazing.
Like you guys need to get into teaching and consulting because y'all giving away a lot.
Yeah.
So we ended up naturally going down that route to
By
where we
doing
are
that, we
now.
ended up winning too at the same time.
Right.
We did. We gave the
It's
game away.
authentic. It made total sense. For sure.
Gave
Like,
the
you guys are
playbook
driving
in some
it that
respects.
way.
You know.
So Tinker's definitely my favorite episode because of everything that came out of that. But Fife was, you know, and shout out to Ali Shahi Muhammad, that's my boy. He hooked that up. And we also, who else popped on that episode?
On that same one.
To surprise
On the
Fife.
same episode as Tinker?
No, as
Pfeiffer-
Fife. As
I
Fife.
remember. Was that Rasta Root? No. Who else was on
Jerobi.
that? Jerobi. That's right. Wow.
So
I
yeah.
forgot about that.
the only one missing from that episode was
Was
Q-Tip.
Q-Tip.
Ali hooked it up
Yeah.
for us to interview Fife, and then Jerobi got hooked up
Yeah. He jumped in.
to jump on.
Yeah.
So we had 3 out of 4 members of Tribe Called Quest
That's
involved
crazy,
in the
man.
episode of our show.
That's crazy.
Can't write that stuff.
Transitioning to like we did past, we did present. Now,
Yeah.
It's always interesting to figure out where the future is gonna go.
Yeah.
And I always start with Trent because he's in the mix, right? Like we're
Front
kind
lines.
You're front lines. You're taking the bullets. We're on the sidelines and have an opinion, but like we really don't because we're not really fighting the fight.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double question. So if you're a young person trying to get into not only retail but sneaker industry in general,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where do you see those opportunities? Like what is it? If you wanted to hire someone to figure something out for you, what would that look like?
Yeah. You know, I also wanted to answer your question that Sean, right?
Yes.
So that you asked Sean about marketing.
Right.
And I was one of those owners maybe 4 or 5 years ago that was not so out front. But not because I was a cool guy, but because I'm West Indian. You know about that. Like, don't say you're doing
Don't say
this.
it.
Don't say that. Don't say who wants it. So I was
Get your action.
not afraid, but I was brought up to be like, don't tell people this. Don't tell me
Just
anything.
move a certain way.
Just move a certain way, right? But I 1,100% agree with you, and that answers your question now too. You're
yeah.
young, getting into it. Like, you cannot own anything right now without being right up front and center with it. It is your 100% surefire way to be successful. For the past 3 or 4 years, as things have been kind of getting a little bit rough, I have looked to hire controllers, consultants, finance, and you know, I always numbers and numbers and numbers. And this year, like I said, geez, shout out to Nicole, you're getting a lot of shout outs, huh? But this year I was like, yo, I want to hire a brand manager. I want to hire somebody that's going to help me with my Trent Out Loud platform.
Right.
I want to hire somebody that's going to help push me and infuse me into Exclucity. And there's a lot of things that we do that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell them this, or I don't want to do that, whatever. And then she's like, yo, Trent, you have to. And then she's sensitive also to like who I am to it. I am a private guy. I mean, you wouldn't think that because I'm like, yeah, but that's now. Like, I just got on Instagram like a year and a half ago, and I didn't even put Trent. Trent was literally like 4 or 5 months ago, Nicole, maybe 5 months ago.
Really?
My first Instagram was Exclu Way of Life. Then it was T Way of Life. And then it was like, I'm gonna take the plunge, Trent. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So it's very, very hard for me, but this generation, they want to know where they're spending their dollars.
Exactly.
It's a vote for them.
Yeah.
They want to know who's behind it. What are you doing with their dollars? You know, where are you taking them? How passionate are you, or whatever?
Yeah.
So I say all that to like the money that I spent on, you know, finance and business people, whatever. I feel like the work that Nicole and I have done in the past 6 months of infusing Trent into the brand has really, really made a really significant change.
Dope.
So,
Dope.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And the answer to any young person doing that, and it's social media. It's free. You know, you have to be creative with it, and you have to be, you know, different with it. You can't just go out there and be like, "Oh, hi, I'm Trent." Like, you know what I'm saying? You gotta have,
Yo, what up? I'm Trent.
yeah, exactly, right?
From the Exclucity, we got them J's.
Yeah, exactly. You have to come up with other clever, fun ways. You have to have a great team behind you. You know, and I think the great thing that we're doing is that we're not only focusing on sneakers. We're infusing other fashion. We're infusing music. We're infusing culture. We're infusing food. So I'm just building the platform.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and everything ties back to our community. So even my Trend Out Loud platform, I'm covering Caravana, which you know
Nice.
about Caravana, right? I cover Caravana. We covered mental health, which is something that is really not spoken about,
Nice.
especially in our culture, right? So that was my second episode. But then I also do like fun things, like I had the bread fours and had people on the street who are not quote unquote sneakerheads, and I was like, can you tell me 5 things about the shoe? Like, what's the name of the colorway? And they're like, I don't know, like what's bread? Or like, who is this made for? Like one guy said like LeBron. So when I found like a normal person on the street that can answer 5 questions about the bread force, I gave them a free. So I do fun, crazy stuff. I'll do mental health. I'll do Caravana.
very
dope.
I think that's the best thing. You always have to think about brand, man. Yeah.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
that you're approaching.
Yeah.
That's how the future is going.
Yeah.
D, what do you see? Like, where's the opportunities? Because I feel like, you know, in all of our classes that Yellowbrick has,
Yeah.
people are taking it on all this knowledge, but then when they get the knowledge, like, okay, where can I apply this knowledge?
I think a big piece of it, and Trent, you said it right in the beginning, is it goes back to the word I always use is storytelling.
Yeah.
So marketing is storytelling. And that's all we are as human beings is storytellers. So someone right now, and I would normally do this moment where I'd reach into my pocket and pull out my smartphone. That device, and it doesn't matter if you're team iPhone or team Android.
Team iPhone.
That I'm team iPhone.
Oh yes, I like
I know,
that.
right? See,
Three out of three.
Oh, you're Android?
Yeah.
Oh
So-
man.
But at the end of the day, by using, like you said, using that device to tell your story, to be able, like, I know right now there's a young man in Rhode Island who's 13 years old who's basically buying worn sneakers, cleaning them up and flipping them.
Yeah, I heard
and
about
is
people
making
with that.
money.
Yeah.
He's running a small business. His father is like, wow, he gets this. He's doing something. He's helping set himself up for the future, right? That thing is so the technology, using these devices, that's where retail is going. But you have to tell a good story. Like sometimes if you just put content out there, like you said, you just like post up like, yeah, too cool for school.
Exactly.
It's not going to sell. It's your personality. People
sure.
are buying.
Yeah.
Guess what? People are buying and they bought into you because of who you are. You've exposed yourself.
Exactly.
And that's one of the hardest things to get young folks or even older folks to just be like, listen, I tell people all the time, you should be recording. If you anything you want to be good at, you have to be obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Right? You have
For
to
sure.
be obsessed with it. Where people are gonna be like, yo, you're crazy. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
I love photography. I love filming. I love sneakers. I'm obsessed with these things. That's why we created Obsessive Sneaker Disorder. You know, and creating your niche and figuring out, like, just go out and taste. Like, treat it as, like, tell all young folks, treat this thing as a buffet. Try different things. Figure out what you like and what you don't like. But you have so much time ahead of you. You have time to make a mistake, to really like mess up.
I agree with you.
Bad, mess up, but then rebound because you'd be like, okay, I did that when I was 16. I did that when I was 20 something. You have your best days are ahead of you. So try some different stuff. Retail is changing. Storytelling is going to be key. Personalities. And then if you do have a brick and mortar, I think it has to become almost like that place, like a barbershop, where you want to
It's a place you go. Yeah.
You want to go and have an experience.
Yeah.
You want to hear
Yeah.
stories. You want to get some game, and you're gonna get. Mo who's gonna walk in and be like, yo, I got these CDs for you, or I got these do-rags, or whatever.
That's
You
kind
know?
of funny
But-
because you're going backwards, but you're making it look new.
Exactly.
It's coming to America.
I mean,
too,
look at
right?
look at right.
Because it's gonna be modern, but you're like, if you were there back then, you understand
It's
what
same,
it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look
It's
at now we have retailers that are combining coffee and sneakers, or a barbershop. Like in Chicago, there's a barbershop that actually is it also a sneaker consignment shop. Guess what? They go hand, right? They go
It's the
hand to
same.
hand.
It's the same.
It's the same vibe.
Yeah.
So
Your thoughts?
I want for young people to really understand what it means to actually go and experience buying a pair of shoes. That's going to go a long way in them deciding and really having a full understanding of, number one, the appreciation for the retailer, and then their experience as a consumer. There's no duality there. It's gone. And the consumer experience has been watered down to the point where it's an app. It's a raffle. One of the things that we teach, we actually teach in part of our program is the retail experience. We give people a checklist of things that they're supposed to look for from the time they walk into a sneaker store to the time they walk out.
Wow.
We're probably the only ones in the world who teach that. But we teach that because people think it's as simple as on Saturday getting up, having your 190 plus tax, standing online, getting your box handed to you like it's a loaf of bread, and then you're out of there, off to Instagram.
Yeah.
Right.
The retail experience, there's so much that you can learn in that experience by going to buy that thing that will cause you to be triggered to say, hey, you know what? Their payment method kind of sucks. Their credit card machine is so janky. Or, I always go in there with cash because I'm afraid to give them my debit card.
Right.
Or, there's so many things that are not being triggered for people to think about as a consumer and on your side as a retailer that can open an entire world for this industry to them.
So I feel like I'll piggyback on it, but also say that, really that's a transferable problem. So I don't feel like that's only in sneakers, right?
Well, we're talking sneakers, and that's one of the places that, definitely the segue.
This is where I'm going to go with it, though. Because I feel like we look at people who are in the sneaker industry like, oh, I'm only in the sneaker industry, where it's like the core of anything you have to do is handle it that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then you become really good.
Right.
So
Right.
it doesn't only apply here. It's like...
There's so many other areas,
Right.
which we'll be discussing at some point, of course.
Right. I'm just saying that that's interesting because we don't bring that up, right?
Right. Facts.
And how important is that?
Yep.
Right?
It's facts.
super
very
important.
super important.
It's all a core kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Man,
There's basically what you're saying, and we all agree. There's a remedial level of skills with all of this that has gone away.
Right. Right.
Well, it's
Fundamentals,
communication.
right?
Right? Communication 101. Like a simple thing, and we talk about this all the time. We walk into a place, the first thing I always say is good morning or good afternoon.
Yeah.
Right? So do your employees say that when people walk in the door? Like that simple greeting may make the world of difference to someone walking through your door.
Yeah.
You know what?
Just welcoming them in and saying, hey, I acknowledge you, I see you.
Yeah. They don't always,
But
we send in secret shoppers. We always try.
Yeah.
Nicole one time called and they said that, I don't know if it was a new number or whatever, but the answer, she called me, she's like, I had to hang up the phone, take a breath, and I'm going down there to speak to them.
because they were...
Because it was just like a hello. It wasn't like, hello, so City, how may I help you? Something like that. But I agree with you 1,000%. Like that alone,
make a...
even if let's say you're busy, you can't reach them, or you're handling, you're doing
Right.
cash, and you can't go up and say, how may I help you? What size or whatever. But hey, and just the intention, not hello, but hey, how are you? Welcome. Like you
Welcome.
have to mean it,
Exactly.
and
It can't be part of the
it
script.
always has to come to that, and it comes down from the top. It comes down from the owner, the CEO, and it comes down to your management team, and then the people on the staff. But yeah, there's sometimes where it's not going to happen, or the person's having a bad day. You reprimand them, or you give them warnings, you get them out. But it's 100,000%. Like to me, the most important thing. If I go in somewhere and someone doesn't greet me, I won't even buy anything. I don't care how much I love the thing in there.
Yeah, I'm gone.
I'm out.
It's gone. Yeah.
Out. So yeah, it's
Definitely
important, man.
gone.
Yeah.
We got time for 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The big one.
Wait, you do know we could do this all night.
Yeah, right. Right? That's Joshua did last time we interviewed him. Like, you need to get me on like a 3-hour show.
You could keep going. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just saying. One that, and this is going to be impactful because I know you all have a different opinion.
Yes.
The
I
word
like arguing.
culture, right? Like I feel it's overused in like the whole sneaker industry, right? When you guys are approaching this word culture, like how do you approach it? Like, do you hear it as like, what does culture mean to you? Is it a real thing? Can it be invented? Does someone own culture when it comes to the retail culture, to the sneaker culture? Interested in everyone's opinion. Because I feel like that's something, like there's media outlets that say we invented culture, and everyone's okay with that.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? But then there's people who embed in the culture, like stuff that Trent did. Selling do-rags, selling, like, if you've never experienced that, then you don't know about it. You can read it, but like there's a different, like when homie's like, I only got $7, and you're like, dude, you always only have $7.
Exactly.
Stop that.
Yeah.
Find the other three. Like that's a whole other story.
Exactly.
Right? So just culture, man. Like I think it's such a word that's overused, and like everyone here, I think, knows what it is. But like, I'd love to hear everyone's opinion on what culture means in this game we're playing these days.
I just want to ask a question to understand the question. So you think it's overused? Do you not think where people are using it? Like, what bothers you about it?
What bothers me about it is because people don't have a context to where it's come from.
Gotcha.
So like, I'm into sneaker culture. Are you? Because like,
Gotcha.
you're just flipping a pair of shoes that you bought yesterday.
Gotcha.
Trent is in the culture because like he was in the trenches.
Got you.
Right? So like, but now it's watered down because someone who made $1 million off of flipping shoes from wherever is in the culture.
Gotcha.
Are they?
Okay.
Are they? Right.
Okay.
Are they?
Got you. Okay.
To me, they're not.
All right.
But like, it's a new day.
So you believe in the word, you just think that it's been
think it's
saturated.
old.
Like sneakerhead, where everyone's a sneakerhead.
Right.
Everyone's a sneaker.
Exactly.
You just bought your first pair. I'm a sneakerhead.
Yeah, exactly. I don't consider myself a
That just
sneakerhead.
sounds so crazy.
No, but like that's what happens. I'm in this
Yeah.
game. I've been here for years. It's like, oh, you just got a pair.
Yeah. Facts.
So like, just what the word culture means to
Go ahead.
I'm going last on this one.
I went
He
first
knows
on the
how I
bunch.
feel about that
Go
one.
ahead.
Culture does exist.
Okay.
Everything with sneaker culture, or anything with culture, for me, starts because of hip hop.
Okay, interesting.
It starts with hip hop. Everyone, people thought it was a fad. Some people say, oh, in 1973. Some people say 1969. It started there, and from hip hop, birth sneaker culture, birth all culture, and yes, it's used. It's thrown around a lot. I do agree, but at the same time, it's like the word like sister or bro or brother or king and queen. Like those are words that mean something to me because of, again, where I come from in my story, my journey. So I'm not here to judge. If you want to use those words and say I'm part of sneaker culture because you bought one pair, that's fine. Some people say, well, you're not a sneakerhead until you have 100 pairs. Oh, no. How many feet do we have, right? And how many can you wear at one time? So if you have one pair and that's your one pair that you like religiously clean and I remember having to do that. Dawn dishwasher liquid, water, and an old toothbrush to clean my Pumas. So culture exists. It's just a matter of the lenses and how we look at it have definitely changed. If I were to swap glasses, we were to swap glasses right now, my eyesight is horrible. So you're going to see things differently from a different perspective. So that's how I look at it.
Culture.
My glasses are fake, so they wouldn't help you.
Definitely a different view there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so you want to go last, so I'll go. Just to piggyback on what you're saying, like how much I agree with the foundation of our culture is from hip hop. Like we brought up DJ Clark Kent to our Laval opening, and I was like, "Yo, hip hop is the." I mean, you can never pinpoint just one thing, but I'm like, hip hop is the reason why there's sneaker culture. And he's like, Seinfeld had just as much to do with sneaker culture as hip hop, and I was like,
wow.
I get what he's trying to say because it's not, I get it, but
I get that though. That's a strong point.
That's a strong point.
Valid point
And
too.
Ken, he's hard to argue with him. And he's like, no, we're out of whatever.
Hard to argue.
Yeah, so I was like, dude, I understand what you're saying, but if you had to pick one, then whatever, But I do agree with you, and everybody has a right to their own opinion, right? But I definitely, if you want to dissect the word, if you think it's overused or not overused, whatever, I love our culture.
Oh, for sure.
I would never, if I had to like die and come back as anything else or be a part of any other culture, I wouldn't choose any other culture but our culture. Like, I love it. We're the heart and foundation of everything. Music, fashion, food. Like, when you look at, for example, just look at Drake, right? Like, we come from Canada. Like, look what Drake has been able to do for a country. And that comes from hip hop. Like, I know he sings, and I know you're gonna be like, he's light skinned and he's soft or whatever. He's a pop artist, but Drake's foundation is hip hop, right? He just was smart and pimped the system, and you know, he's arguably the Michael Jackson of our time. You know what I mean? Like, to these kids, right? I know you probably are like, what? Don't worry, like I grew up with the glove and the socks. I'm a Michael Jackson fan, but to these kids, he is.
No, you're totally right.
They're saying he raised tourism in Canada by like $4 or $5 billion because of hip hop, dude.
Wow.
You know, because of one dude. So
I love where you're going with this because it leads into my point.
okay, perfect. So it's like, I love our culture, but with anything that becomes mainstream and becomes to the masses, we're gonna, especially like dudes like us, so you're gonna be like, oh, this is doing that and that's going that. And that's what I said to like my first point. I just feel like we need to kind of find an equilibrium. I hope that's the right word. We kind of just find a balance and find a core. And you know what? It will weed itself out. Like, none of us here has to say the culture.
For sure.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, nobody has to say that. Like, so that kid that's like, yo, I'm the culture, I'm this whatever. It's like, you know that he's not the culture, right? The kid who says, yo, I'm a sneakerhead, you know he's not a sneakerhead. You know?
And that's what's important for
Yeah,
Like,
so-
I think it's important.
So yeah, I feel it's important, and I just feel like, and I was talking with Conceited when I was doing from Wildin' Out, the MTV show, and I just interviewed him, and I was talking with him about how I think hype is like really like scary, and he's like, why? You know, like he's like, he doesn't like hype, but he's like, I don't think it's gonna kill it, and Jordan could still focus on retroing 1 to 14, and I'm like, yo, we have to, because I think that Jordan brand should try to get back less with the fashion end and try to get back on the court and focus on what's the next 40 years going to look like, not what's this year's going to look like, you know? And like, I'm super name dropping here, but like Gentry came up to Toronto and that's what we were talking about. And he's like, he's really putting a lot of effort into the 34 and focusing on getting shoes back on the court. So I say all of this to say, when he's like, oh, why Conceited was like, why do you have to care about this? Because I'm like, yo, I care so much about this culture. And when I go to Toronto in the financial district and I see some guys in suits and they're wearing sneakers, I'm like, that's from us. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody's wearing an Air Force One that he wouldn't normally wear or she wouldn't normally wear. And when I see females getting into sneakers, so I love our culture, and I just think that we need to have the right elements to protect it so it doesn't ever go away, man. So I feel what you're saying.
That's what I wanted to point out.
Yeah. I don't want it to go anywhere, man.
All right, well, I'm gonna go super scientifical, lyrical.
Okay, here we go.
And just because this is actually, this question that you asked, a derivative of it is our thesis paper for our program.
Gotcha.
Every student has to answer this, and that's, is this a culture? So, tying off of what D said, sneaker culture is hip hop culture. All the rules that govern sneaker culture are hip hop rules. Sneakers were chosen to be the official footwear for hip hop culture because they represented anti-establishment. Anti-establishment meaning you couldn't go to church with sneakers, you couldn't go to work with sneakers, you couldn't get married with sneakers on. A whole lot of places you could not go with sneakers. The song Felon Shoes is actually a song made by a band called Creative Funk, where they straight for 3 minutes lambasted anyone who wore sneakers all the time.
Oh, wow.
That gave birth to my Adidas because that was the response to that song.
MC.
Because society looked down on people who wore sneakers all the time. Society, on a whole, not just us and us.
Yeah.
They looked down on people who wore sneakers and judged them as people with no future and with low self-esteem and with, no goals or anything. So sneakers were chosen when hip-hop was being formed as anti-establishment, meaning we make our own rules. We sample old records. We take sneakers and make them cool. We take, all different things, from apparel and remix it and use it the way we're going to use it. And as you said, with hip-hop fluence, there's a global phenomenon of many sorts. Drake inspired by hip-hop ultimately brings in $5 billion in tourism to Canada. So we cannot have this conversation about whether there is a sneaker culture without acknowledging that it is hip hop culture.
Gotcha.
As much money as has been made for sneakers, it's easy and convenient, as you say, to separate it from its origins. But to us, you can't do it.
They're
You simply
always-
cannot do it.
Right.
So now, here's the other part where I go scientific. You gotta excuse me. Get my 5%er on. So when we talk about culture, cultures have a spoken and unspoken language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sneakers have spoken and unspoken language?
We do.
Cultures have libraries, museums, and literary works. Doesn't sneakers have that?
Facts.
Sneakers have people teaching. Hello.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you look at you check off some of the boxes that represent a culture,
Yeah.
sneakers check every box.
Every box.
Now here's the other piece. Those of us who have children, right? It is way easier for our children right now than it ever was for us. Correct?
Yeah,
I agree with
absolutely.
that.
So,
They may not see it that way.
but we're seeing it because we're seeing a guy who can buy a pair of shoes and now say he's a part of sneaker culture.
Yeah.
You and I say that back in the days, we're being chased down the street.
Right.
Right.
Right? So it's a case of our children are reaping the benefits of our hard work.
Oh, yeah.
When someone conveniently states without the responsibility that they are a part of this culture.
Dope.
It's really simple. It's really as simple as that.
That's-
we did the
a good
work.
point.
They get the praise.
The reward.
They get the reward.
That was a very impressive way of breaking it down, I have to say.
So there's no other way that it's gonna be, because even those folks, again, just to use Drake as an example, Drake has now made it easier for anyone, Trent and you, anyone who's from Toronto, Montreal, the place, for people to be comfortable to listen to your story and sit with you, be like, oh yeah, and
Facts.
there are people who will sit and act like they're so familiar now with the places where you guys represent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Toronto's in the conversation right now.
From the six,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Yeah.
It made it easy.
For sure.
So people who go on a generation after that, it's gonna be even easier for people to sit and be like, yo, Toronto, man.
Well, that's
my
what
spot,
made New York was hip hop.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and then LA when West Coast came out in the 90s,
Right.
right?
So there's going to be that expansion,
yeah, for sure.
But it always has to start with someone and a way of life where people have
spark.
decided
Yeah.
that these are our rules. This is how we're going to do this, regardless of what people say.
Gotcha.
So I'm not mad at people who conveniently want to, brag on our hard work for years of what we've been doing, because we want it better for our children than we want it for ourselves. So when someone takes that stance, we get it. Now, some of the older heads, I'll say this, there's a lot of older heads who have been around as long as we have that shun the responsibility.
That's fair. They
Yeah.
tapped out.
That happens.
So they don't want
They don't wanna
to
put in the work.
They don't want to put in the work
No.
to maintain this culture. So they'll say, "Oh, it's not a culture; it's a community. It's a hobby." And I tell
I
some of
hate
them,
the hobby
and I tell some of
comment.
them, and I tell some of them, $77 billion globally is nobody's hobby,
Exactly.
but they shun the responsibility. So you use these terms and you take these dismissive stances because you don't want the responsibility of passing on and exchanging that information and knowledge for the culture. So this argument, that debate, this thesis paper, everything that it is that you started this question with, is going to be here.
Yeah.
It's not going
It's not
anywhere.
going anywhere. Yeah.
But the facts are what the facts are.
So
By the way, quickly, he grouped me in having kids. Ladies, I just want to let you know I have no kids. I'm single, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
the Canadians have no children on
We
this.
about to put numbers up.
I know, right? I'm in New York City. You know, I just want to keep my options open. It's live streaming,
Right.
right?
Got you,
Gonna
got
put
you.
lower thirds and put your cell number up
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
What was the name
Put
of that
Nicole's number so she can read them out.
Because it's a live stream, like one of the most challenging things I find is you can never get to ask questions. So what I do when it's like this, because I always look at it like my peers are so dope, so sometimes we don't get to like ask each other questions.
Yeah.
Right? So Sean, like any questions you have, like I've been asking all the questions. Feel free to
I
ask.
asked you one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let me clarify some
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so because I'm with Trent for the first time, I got another one for him. I've asked him a few already.
Yeah.
We've done a sub interview here,
That's
Yeah.
that's cool.
but you know, again, in listening to your journey, right, and seeing where you are now, and even the parts that we didn't know that we just found out that you had 10 stories, you scaled back. At what point did you realize when you were going from 10 that you needed to go down to 3? It's time for me to do something different.
At what point? I was actually talking about this, Nicole, again. You got a lot of shout outs, Nicole. She's my right hand, that's my confidant. You have to, and this is good for the kids out there. Like, Oprah always says there's a whisper, then there's a tap on your shoulder, and then a punch in the face. And if you don't listen to that, then the house comes down.
Okay.
And I am very, as you guys can tell, I'm very passionate. I'm very focused. I'm like almost like a horse with blinders. And I think, I would say like 2017, there was kind of like a, hey, you know, little like, what's going on? But I'm like, no, it's fine. And then like 2018, that's when things started really getting like kind of questionable. And I had just signed a lease and I was going to open a store in Vancouver. And there were some people on my consulting team that were like, yo, you might want to just take a step back, you know? And I was like, nope, I'm fine. And then a couple more months went along and I had another consulting and they're like, this Vancouver thing, when you add up these numbers, I don't think it's necessarily going to work out. So it took 2 years to really sink in, to know that we needed to change and, or I needed to make that change. And I literally think I was 60, 90 days away.
Oh,
and if
wow.
I didn't make the change, I may not have been sitting here with you right now talking about Exclucity. So, yeah,
crazy.
you have to be able to, and that's business, right?
Now say that one more time, those steps that you said
Yeah.
that bring you to that realization, the ones you said that Oprah says.
Oh, so there's a whisper, and there's a tap on the shoulder, then a punch in the face, and then the house comes down.
4 steps.
Yeah, man. You gotta, and it's hard to listen to the whisper because it's a whisper. So you're like,
That's nothing.
yeah, you're like, yeah,
That's just the wind.
yeah. It's like, what? Like, nah, you know. And then like, they didn't really tap, and it's very hard. So yeah, right. Yeah, and then you're like, hey, but then like, hey, if you watch my, if you go to my website, go to About Us, you'll see all our store openings. Like, it wasn't easy even opening those 10 stores. There was always things that were whispers, but you, as an entrepreneur and a businessman, you keep on pushing through. So I kept on, like, I have goosebumps talking about it. Like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna do the 3rd store. Should we go to this town? Should we go here? I don't know. Okay, it's not really working out, but let's open Laval. I was very, very, very scared to open up Toronto. You know, it was when Nike, it was the NBA All-Star was coming 2016, and Nike had come up and said, hey, we're looking to kind of like, you know, up the Toronto kind of marketplace, because when All-Star comes somewhere, you have Nike
have distribution
all
points,
over the world comes there, so they want to have premium retail. So like, here's an opportunity for you to come up, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready right now, you know? So that could have been a whisper to maybe not go, but I did, and I made that work, you know? And then so I say that to say, like, it's a balance where there's some whispers that you have to not listen to and some that you have to. So, you know, I think it's really important to listen to it. I think it's really important to have a strong team behind you. I've always been about team. I've never built anything on my own. I've had 6 companies before, then they were all crashed and burned. I think you were talking about before about being resilient and keep on going. It's not always going to work. But yeah, I was a couple of months away. Getting back to your question, a couple months away, and
being here.
yeah, and we've made, and we're not out the woodworks yet. You know, there's still a lot of work that we have to do. But I think the most important thing was me focusing on my brand. That's really made the biggest change so far.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. Glad you're here, man.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Trent, question.
Shit. I was gonna ask you guys something. Oh man, I was trying not to swear. You said it once, and he said it was only Sean and I have it, and damn it. Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys something about your podcast, but I already know that Tinker was on. All right, this is something I don't know. Where did you guys meet? How long ago was it? And what made you decide to do a podcast? Look at that question. Trent out loud. What up, yo, baby? Off the top of the dome, man. That was some battle rap in here. All right,
So
you take this.
we don't get to share that one a lot.
Yeah.
But D had mentioned earlier Flight Club.
Yeah.
So our good buddy Chris Vidal, who was pretty much instrumentally responsible for the popularity of Flight Club, and I will say that every day to anybody until the cows come home.
Wow.
Chris Vidal is responsible for the popularity of Flight Club, which ushered in all of this that we see today.
Oh wow.
Chris was a mutual friend of both of ours.
Gotcha.
And before they moved to all the different places around the world, and then they scaled back and everything, they had a location on Green Street in the Village in Manhattan. That was the Mecca. That's where you went. Whether you were going to buy shoes or not, if you were in the shoes, you took your little weekend trip to Flight Club.
100%.
You know, if you happen to know Chris or Esco or Los or one of the other guys in the spot, then you was good to hang out for a few. But Chris would be quick to tell you, yo, you buying? No?
Bounce.
Door. Bounce.
Customer service.
You know, Chris was not the Chris was the anti-customer service customer service.
People love him.
But people loved him,
love
and
him.
he represented the brand passionately.
Absolutely.
And he's a friend who loves hard, and also a great connector. So, mutual friend of his, mutual friend of mine. D had just came down from Worcester, Mass. to go see Chris. I happened to be going to do my weekend pass through, you know, and he had already been told by another mutual friend of ours that passed away, yo, you need to meet my man D. D, yo, you need to meet my man Sean. So our boy Mateo, who, you know, rest in peace, he kept talking to us about each other, and we had never met each other. So D takes a trip
Just
down
because
from
of
Worcester.
your passion for sneakers?
Just because we were all in shoes.
Gotcha.
Mateo was also a size 15, but he loved shoes like he was a size 9, let me tell you. So D takes a trip down to go see Chris at Flight Club. I happen to go. I walk in, D's already there, Chris lights up. Chris is like, yo! and Chris had this thing. Chris had this thing with me where he said, yo, if Sean takes his business card out and gives it to you, then it's real. If he never reaches for his pocket and hands you his business card, he don't want to rock
He
with
don't
it.
like you.
So, not knowing who he was, and I walk in, Chris lights up. He's there. Sean, this is D. D. Sean, my man, Sean. So we start talking, one thing leads to another. Is you from Massachusetts? You know, he's like, yeah, you know, I used to work with Soul Collective. So I was like, really?
Yeah.
I was like, so
Do you know
you friends with Mateo? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, boop.
Yeah.
So we hit it off from there. D had already, you know, had his plans to do his next venture after Soul Collector. And so we had met in 2005. And it was winter of 2005. I'll never forget. And he was already working on what his next move was going to be, which, for the record, the very first sneaker podcast was by this man by himself, ranting for 15 minutes about a whole lot of things that bothered him in the sneaker industry. August 27, 2007, day after my daughter's birthday, I'll never forget. He posted that 15-minute podcast.
Crazy.
And then from there, turned into everything it turned into. He
Yeah.
pulled me in, pulled a bunch of us other folks in. But I was the only one who, because of our, you know, nucleus and how we came together, I sort of took on the OSD brand like it was mine.
Gotcha.
It was his, but it was mine because I was going to rep it as passionately. And, you know, since then, we had a lot of cast members on our show. At one point, and this was before we were getting podcast royalties from streaming and all. That was no money when we literally no money when we were doing what we did.
Do it 'cause we
And we just did it. And we were getting back then numbers that people aren't even getting now.
Wow.
Like, truth be
What
told.
show was on for you guys?
So it was an audio podcast, right? So people were like, what radio station do you tune into to listen to it? So it's really, literally,
crazy.
the podcast term was new.
Yeah.
And ironically, D had found this podcast platform called the
Talkshoe.com.
TalkShoe.
Wow.
So the show ended up on TalkShoe.com, which was a great tie-in for us. It just really
That's
worked
God.
all the way around.
That's what you say. That's just,
But here's the crazy thing. So we could have up to 50 callers on the line and up to 200 in our live chat room. We were managing all of this while we were doing our
The
show.
show.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So, like, it became a destination. People were like, yo, if you want to be taken seriously, yo, Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock, you got to hit that OSD.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And everything just developed from there. And then, you know, us again, because the way we met, we had people that were talking about the both of us before we even met. And these were people who we respected in sneakers and as people. it was just easy for
Just
us
pull them
to
in.
connect.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of outlasted a lot of the stuff that other people were doing.
Yeah.
You know, and we've even outlasted people who we put on the show. We are literally two of us and probably Ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, who does our branding logo and stuff. And, you know, like the three of us are like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
You
nice.
know? Because the
Story.
level of passion and level of commitment just wasn't there from everybody. It
Yeah,
was,
it's not
again,
easy
one
to
of those
do.
things that...
And consistency.
Yeah, 300 shows. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah,
look for a good run.
Yeah, so our goal
Yeah.
was to do 365 shows and then stop because we wanted to be the only show to give you a different show to listen to every day for a year.
Wow.
And, you know, even when we stopped, you know, we went from audio, we went to video. We were like in the test group for Google Hangouts, so we moved over to
Yeah.
video. There's still a lot of our shows up on our YouTube page through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just realized, okay, because Dee and I were always thinking 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
What's
while
next?
people are starting to do more
Yeah.
sneaker talk shows, we open the door, now they're in. What's next for us? So we took our education platform more seriously, our consulting, storytelling, you know, just teaching on different levels more serious. So, and recently we like I said, we did 3 episodes recently. You know, Dion, you were out in Portland with us when we did Scoop.
Nice.
And we did Wilson Smith, who's the first black sneaker designer in the entire sneaker industry. And, you know, during my exhibit that was in residence here in New York, we had one at Port Authority called Sneakers Hip Hop in New York City. We interviewed a young lady who's a tremendous storyteller. Her name is Asha Boston. So we've done 3 episodes over the last couple of months where everybody's hitting us like, yo, come back.
Come back.
Yo, come
Nice.
back. Please come
That's
back.
such a good feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I mean, and we're doing it only from the lens of storytelling.
Of course.
For sure.
We created the show from a totally different motivation. It was like nobody's out here ranting and talking about sneakers the way we are. Let's
Right.
just
Let's
keep
just
doing it.
Keep doing it.
So now when we sit down to do an episode, you know, it's really going to be something special, and it's
Nice.
going to be for the purpose of allowing people
tell
whose
the
story
story.
we think is dope to tell that story.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
Good
that's
question.
that's
Thank
who
you very
we
much,
are.
man.
question.
Glad I took you guys down memory lane.
Yeah, for real.
What about you, D? Final question?
I mean, you talked about what's the future. I always say, like, what is the next? I guess I'm looking at what is the next, like.
He can't tell us.
What's-
He can't tell us.
Nicole, I can't tell
What
them,
are the
right?
first 6 months of 2020 gonna look like for you?
Oh,
and
that's a
your
good one.
brand?
Yes, first 6 months of 2020. Go to 8 months though.
If you can.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of an exclusive. We'll be opening a new location in 2020.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it will not be a traditional retail space. And we'll
Nice.
be potentially, oh gosh, Nicole's getting mad. Okay, we'll get anything. But yeah, we're our new
Nicole's like,
our new experience will start in 2020, somewhere around All Star or Air Max
Nice.
Day.
okay.
Yeah, and it will not be traditional retail. It will be all experience driven, not only footwear and not only fashion.
Okay.
And it's funny because there's a couple of things that you mentioned already that we're infusing, and it's not gonna be. It's always gonna be interchangeable.
Okay.
It's gonna be a different experience all the time.
Nice.
Done. All right.
All right. Cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to be careful about it, right? Too, because there's competitors, there's people
Oh, no,
hearing.
you gotta
and-
protect your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
look, I say it, and it's in the works, but the ink is not dry. Not everything is there, so it
Exactly.
could be delays, and you don't want somebody taking a part of it. But no, and I want to.
we know where your heart is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's
Thank you.
important
That's
that we
important.
need
That's
to,
key.
to convey to
Yeah.
everybody is the fact that
Yeah.
your heart is in a place with these things that you want to do
Exactly.
that other people, their heart and their pockets just really isn't there. You know,
Facts.
this is really a really tumultuous time for somebody selling shoes to
Yeah.
make a living.
100%.
That's the truth. I mean, you know, we're literally watching people close their doors now who
100%.
they've given a lot to this.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, you know, on one side their own doing,
Yeah.
but then on the other side there's the forces of nature. We know who they are,
Yeah.
who are saying, okay, we're gonna blow your house down.
Yeah.
We don't care if it's reinforced with steel. We're still taking it down.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, you know, with the climate that we're in, this is, even for people who have been in this business, this is the ultimate time to learn.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. And that's why it's a school. So Dion is always asked like to
I always try
Exactly.
to just educate.
Yeah.
teach.
Education,
They signed up for a reason, right? So I always try to
Yep.
give a little bit of myself.
Just to wrap up, maybe share like your personal information, something, last thoughts that you want to share with people just before we wrap up.
So, I'm going to repeat it. Take ownership fully of what it is you want to endeavor into. If this industry is it, if this particular topic, sneaker retail, is it, we have an example of somebody who been high, been low, took ownership of it all. He moved forward. This is the journey you're going to have to take. There's no easy cookie cutter way. Instagram isn't going to make you rich with sneakers.
Right.
Don't care if you put a shop now button next to that pair of shoes. This is not going to happen. You have to have a genuine level of ownership and commitment to it. And that's why you're listening to us, I assume, is because you want that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram, OSD_PAPERCHASR. So that's Paper Chaser without the E in Chaser. Hopefully you remember that. But if not, I'm easy to find.
You just said it. So. Trent.
I talked enough today.
Come on.
Y'all know what's going on. I will leave you with one thing is do you and just live your truth. Live your truth. Whether it's sneakers or fashion, just follow. If you're not into something and you're trying to do something because somebody else wants to do it, or you hear me talking about it, or any of these guys up here, it's not going to work out for you because it literally takes like 19, 20 hours a day. I'm on my 13th year and I'm still busting my ass and working all the time. So follow your passion, because when you're working in your passion, it doesn't feel like work.
That's right.
More importantly, holla at your boy, Trent Out Loud, Trent Out Loud on Instagram, Exclucity, EXCLUCITY
That's right.
on Instagram. And ladies, like I said, I'm in New York. Holla at your boy. Yo. Put Nicole's information out here, son. You know what I'm saying?
Put her number up.
Yeah. No, not my number. Hell no.
Her number. Oh man.
Deep.
On all social media, D Wells OSD. Really simple. D with 2 E's. My thing is,
What's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Taurus. Really, be your truth, speak your truth.
Yeah.
Anything you want to do in life, be obsessed with it. Turn down the volume on the haters. Turn up the kindness. Turn up the empathy. Turn up the grace and love and mercy. And every day, just thank God that you're here to do and be. And I always say this, and I've started to say it more as of now, spread love. It's not only the Brooklyn way. It's true, something we have to do more of, because we have to turn down the ignorance and the hatred that's out there and turn up the love. I love that we've been able to do this, and I know it's going to lead to bigger and more things.
Sure.
So that's I always encourage people, try again, it's a buffet. Taste it, try it, do it, hit the reset button if you need to. And keep it moving.
Try love. Put it on your plate.
And you're never too old to either, right? Not just young kids. You're never too old.
Never.
Man.
I mean, my best days are still ahead of me.
1000%.
We have a lot of good moves to make.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all three of you guys being on the show.
Thank you.
And
The glue, the plug,
Thank you, brother.
and then some.
I just try to make it happen.
Yeah,
Good people.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, no, thank you guys for coming through. I know it's on a Monday, holiday.
Yeah.
It's all good.
This is
Super
fun.
grateful. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we could probably go on for another 2 hours if we wanted to.
We still did an hour and a half. It was
Right,
good.
yeah,
We said an hour. We wanted 3. We're halfway.
Yeah.
We'll leave for a second part.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Yeah. Part two.
Exactly.
Shout out to Optimus Prime. Sorry he couldn't be on. We ran out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you guys a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Much
Thank you,
love.
D.
Peace.
Peace.